Here is a $30 chair from Coleman. This is the broadband mesh quad chair. Now this is a $300 chair from Yeti, the Trailhead camp chair, and in this video you'll be finding out every single difference between both these chairs so that you can decide which is better for you and your wallet. When it comes to the setup and pack away of each chair, the $30 Coleman chair took 3 times faster to set up, coming in at only about 6 seconds, and took about half the time to pack away, so just about 20 seconds. The Yeti took quite a few seconds more, as you can see here. That's because for the Coleman, all I had to do was to pull the chair out of the carry bag, grab opposite ends of the chair, pull it open, and it's basically all set up. As for the Yeti, it's a bit more complicated. After taking it out of the carry bag and grabbing opposite ends, which is the same as the Coleman, I then had to lock both the armrests one at a time and make sure that each of them clicked into place when I did so. After that, I had to go to the back of the chair and lock the back handle as well, which is why it took a bit longer to set up and pack away. The reason why you need to lock the armrests on the Yeti is because this makes the seat fabric almost completely taut. So when you sit down on the Yeti, you don't sink into the seat at all. On the other hand, notice what happens when you sit down on the Coleman chair. You sink quite a few inches into the seat because it doesn't have the same seat tautness. Now, the Yeti also has a back handle for locking as well, and this is to make the backrest taut too, so it supports your entire back when you lean back on it. The Coleman doesn't have this same feature, so basically, there's no taut seating, no taut backrest, unlike the Yeti. If you really need lumbar support because you have a bad back, the Yeti is the only camping chair I've tested so far that actually supports your back better than some of the chairs that you may have at home. Now, speaking of backrests, here's another difference between the Coleman and the Yeti. The backrest of the Coleman comes in at less than 20 inches, while the Yeti has 4 more inches. So for the Coleman, this was enough to cover my entire back, but not enough to give me a neck rest. And to make things worse, the top 3 inches of backrest height is actually very flimsy with little supports from the end. So if we're being nitpicky, that brings the backrest height of the Coleman down to just 17 inches. As for the Yeti, when I sit upright, it still wasn't tall enough to give me a neck rest. But the top of the backrest actually flattens off here a bit, and it isn't flimsy at all. So because I'm not very tall, I could actually scoot down the chair a bit and rest my head on this backrest, which was a little detail that I did appreciate. Now, the next significant difference is in the seat height. If you have trouble getting out of low seats, I'd recommend avoiding the Coleman because it sits quite a few inches lower than any chair you have at home. Most camp chairs actually sit quite low though, and 11 inches that you see here is quite a common seat height that you'd see in most chairs. I'd say this is the average for all camp chairs. On the other hand, the Yeti sits almost as tall as any chair you might have at home. It's actually the tallest camp chair I've tested. Another dimension we'll quickly look at is the seat size, the seat width, and the seat depth of each chair will be given on screen now. They're not very different. The Yeti is only about 10% bigger than the Coleman, so there's not much to say here, and I was able to fit into both of them perfectly well. When it comes to the breathability of each chair, both are meant for summer use, but only about 35% of the Coleman was made of mesh, specifically the backrest. So when I was sitting on the chair, my back always felt very breezy, but the seat ran a little bit hotter over time, and I wished that there was more mesh there. As for the Yeti, however, the entire chair is made of a full mesh construction, and I'll quickly show you what that looks like right now. In terms of breathability for summer use, this Yeti wins hands down, and is another big reason why I really enjoy using this chair. If you're wondering why the price tag of the Yeti is a whopping $300, it's because mesh is typically much more expensive to manufacture than pure polyester fabric. If you take a look at most cheaper camping chairs that are being sold right now, just look at the proportion of fabric and mesh and you'll see why. I also did a 1-hour sit test with each chair and used a temperature gun to take the beginning and ending temperatures of the chair, and the results speak for themselves, with the Coleman going up in temperature by more than 3 times of the Yeti. When it comes to the features of each chair, the Coleman has only one mesh cup holder with a width of about 2.8 inches, and it holds up to only a single can and nothing too much bigger. There were no pockets on this chair. As for the Yeti, surprisingly, there was also only one cup holder with no pockets as well. I liked that the cup holder was a bit bigger though and could fit anything from cans, bottles, and even a 1-liter Nalgene. It's also removable if you don't want to use it, plus there's also a drainage hole at the bottom to take care of any spills. All of these small details Coleman doesn't have. I wish both of them had pockets, especially the Yeti at its high price point, but at least the cup holder is pretty good. One feature I really liked in the Yeti is the UV resistance though, and it's one of the few camp chairs that have this. I've had my chair for a few months now, and I've had it out in the sun for at least a few weeks, and so far it's still looking good as new without any fading. As for quality, we already looked at the mesh and fabric of each chair, so now we're going to look at the chair frame. As for the Coleman, I measured the thickness of the poles, and that came in at about 0.63 inches thick. And this is what the rivets of the chair look like. It's just a standard, simple rivet that most camp chairs have. Moving on to the Yeti, they're very much thicker and beefier, coming in at more than an inch thick. Not only are the poles much thicker, the pole joints are significantly beefier, thicker, and higher quality too. Basically, the entire frame is just so much more solid and much higher quality. Here's a quick summary on the poles and the pole rivets. Notice how the Yeti is almost twice as strong if we're looking at just the pole thickness. But here's where the cons of the Yeti start to come in again. In terms of weight, it's almost 2.5 times heavier than the Coleman. I think this is mainly because of the humongous frame that we just saw. And compared to the other 21 camp chairs that I've tested, the Yeti is actually my heaviest chair. And if we're looking at the pack volume of each chair, the Yeti is almost 4 times the volume of the Coleman. However, when it comes to the ease of carry, the Yeti is definitely the winner. The Coleman's carry bag has a single non-adjustable and non-padded webbing strap that allows you to sling it over your shoulder when you're done packing it up. The Yeti, on the other hand, has straps that are not just padded, but also completely adjustable using the buckles on each strap. I also love the backpack feature of the carry bag too. This made it surprisingly easy to carry around despite how heavy it is. And a few additional differences include the weight capacity. The Yeti's is twice that of the Coleman, and the warranty is 5 times as long. So obviously, as you might have been expecting, the Yeti is unsurprisingly better than the Coleman when it comes to most of my testing, with it winning a whopping 14 tests, while the Coleman was better in only 4 tests, and that's just the setup, pack away, and portability, things that may not be so important to you. Ultimately, which chair is better for you? Should you pay top dollar for a really good camp chair or go with something much cheaper? For myself, because the Yeti is so expensive, I'd recommend going for it only if you really need the lumbar support for your back. This is probably the most important reason I'd go for it, because this is the only camp chair I have that actually provides enough of this support. I'd recommend the Yeti also if you have trouble getting out of low seats, but this is a bit of a smaller reason. And of course, if you camp only in summer and you know you're going to use this for many years to get your money's worth. Would I recommend a $30 Coleman budget chair though? Well, not exactly, because I've done a complete analysis on 21 different camp chairs. You can see all the data points on this table on screen, and for a budget-friendly chair, I'd recommend a much better quality chair in the $40 to $50 range instead, so it's not too much more expensive. Do watch that video if you want to find out which chair that is. Thank you so much for watching this, and I'll see you in that one.